Hello. Yes, my face looks very odd on this. Now, very oddly shaped. I don't believe I necessarily do really look like that. And look at these darker, both of them made me look like Morticia or something, or something like something from a Batman film now. Never mind. Anyway, I'm hoping you can ignore that. My eyes don't really look like that. As I get closer, you can hopefully see that I haven't got kohl or eyeliner all around my eyes smudged. Yes. Anyway, I want to say that um a few hours ago, about 24 hours ago now, I listened and watched a Rupert Sheldrake lecture about pigeons. Now, I thought there may have been some exaggerations in his lecture, which I did esteem greatly, however, but I didn't watch the entire lecture because I had got somewhat diverted anyway by the fact that he asserted that hundreds of thousands of people are breeding racing pigeons in Europe. And I hoped to some extent that that may be somewhat of an exaggeration, because pigeons aren't to me nuisances at all. In fact, they're miraculous creatures. As he explained, they've been used by the military and they're to be esteemed themselves. Um, Most birds are to be absolutely wondered at. Not only are pigeons able to relocate from where they've been dumped, occasionally dumped for experimentation purposes. Not only are they able to find home again. Now, this is important because um, I did wonder whether it is because I didn't go on to watch the rest of the lecture, whether asylum seekers haven't um, been now dumped on boats as their homes. The rest of the lecture was about the idea that Sheldrake had apparently to see whether he could get pigeons to find again a mobile home. I did start worrying that people were breeding pigeons in the back of vans and things like that. Now, it is of note and concern and interest. I don't know why, by the way, he said the pigeon problem about, the really miraculous skills of birds to be able to um, fly huge distances and their orientation skills at being able to find their way home. Now, I did watch the bit before he started talking about whether, well, experimenting and making the homes mobile. I did watch the bit about him saying it might be like an elastic band that pulls and some sort of to do with the heart of the pigeon. He might be thinking the feelings, perhaps, of the pigeon. Um, it would, of course, probably be of importance that the pigeon likes home, wouldn't it? If the pigeon doesn't want to get home, if it hates home, would it go home? But the other thing about Sheldrake's lecture is he did make me aware, which I have been aware watching the birds outside my window. I wondered for a little bit whether what was that name of that author who was slightly schizophrenic, a science fiction writer who wrote really very, very good and complex also science fiction stories, some of them simple actually, but very um, succinctly effective. I think he wrote one called The Castle one time. I've forgotten his name now. I've forgotten what I was on about now. He wrote a short story once about people having windows in their homes. Well, a company trying to sell people houses with windows in their homes that were electrified scenes. And they couldn't actually necessarily see out at all. And there might have been like a building site or some other horror visible that was shielded by the electric scene, rather like an Amazon um, screen at the moment. You can put the fire on Amazon on your television, things like that. A bit like that. But anyway, would they want to go home if home was awful? The pigeons. I hope they wouldn't. I hope they would. Like if someone had been silly enough to coop them in an awful home and then take them miles and miles away from it, I hope they wouldn't want to return home and they would manage to make an escape to somewhere else. But anyway, Rupert Sheldrake also made me aware that I was saying, I remember what I was saying now. When I've been watching these birds flying so incredibly swiftly, some of them darting so swiftly across the sky, almost faster than my eye can track. I did wonder whether there was some sort of electric force on the window trying to set me up with visions or something. But no, he has seemed to um, reinforce the truth of the information that some birds sometimes can fly incredibly fast. And that he was talking about homing pigeons or racing pigeons who covered 600 miles in 10 hours. That's 60 miles an hour. Now, if you think about that, and it is of importance as well because Richard, oh dear, I've forgotten his name and he's so famous. Richard Dawkins from the competing university, Rupert Sheldrake is firmly set up now again with Cambridge, but Richard, Richard Dawkins um, has interested himself recently also in birds. Maybe it's because Bede, the Saint Bede, the man who brought Christianity to England, um, did involve himself also with birds towards the end, setting them up as spiritual creatures towards the end of people's lives. Um, Probably there were a lot more robins and sparrows and all sorts, blackbirds also in England then than there are now, because unfortunately their habitat has to an extent been eradicated by human greed. But how? How can they make their muscles work so fast as to fly at 60 miles an hour? I mean, the amount of flapping about, if it is flapping about, that would take, you would think. It's a daily miracle